Hello, everyone. Welcome back. You are watching the Zenith Glow Astrology channel. My name is Christina, and I am an astrologer. I appreciate you being here. Thanks so much for tuning in. All right, in today's video, we are talking about the upcoming Leo new moon, which is happening this week. But there's so much more going on than just this new moon, and we're going to talk about all of it. I have a slew of notes, a slurry uh, I don't know, a mess of notes in front of me. Uh, and they're not really in order. So we'll see how this goes. I'm just kind of winging it. But yeah, let's first talk about the new moon itself. Also, I was just caught in a rainstorm, which was super fun. Welcome to Tennessee, y'all. I don't know how much of this is water and how much is sweat. It's probably 50-50. Uh, yeah, we're starting to get where I live in Tennessee. July is actually the wet season, and it's also the hottest month of the year. Fun fact. So we're getting lots of thunderstorms, and I just took my dogs outside, and sure enough, big crack of thunder, and then it just started pouring rain. And I thought, this is fun. Let's play in the rain. And then the rain came more. And then it started dumping rain even more. And I finally hit that limit where it was like pouring off of my face. And I'm like, okay, we're going in. I know this was fun for you, but we're going in. So now my dogs are napping. Anyway, just a fun fact, and I just decided to embrace the craziness of the weather and the humidity. So, we have a new moon in Leo, right? This week. That's happening on Thursday, July 24th, and it's going to be exact at 3:10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and it will be at 2 degrees 7 minutes of Leo. There was just a crack of thunder. You probably can't hear it because my microphone sort of muffles the background noise, which, let's face it, is probably to our benefit, but crack of thunder. Ooh, 2 degrees, 7 minutes. Um, so this is, again, it's a really special event because there's just so much going on right now. I mean, through the month of July in general, but as y'all know, Mercury just went retrograde in the sign of Leo. Now, it's not directly aspecting the new moon, but it doesn't matter. The energy is still there as well. Uranus just went into the sign of Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. So Mercury is giving its influence to Uranus as well. Even though typically we look at the outer planets as influencing the inner planets, I mean, they're not actually making a direct aspect to each other. It's more like Mercury is carrying in that undertone of energy, and Uranus is like, I'm picking up on your vibes and I'm liking it. And I'm projecting that through my own amplified energies. And yeah, and then as well, we also have Mars conjunct Virgo, the other sign that Mercury rules. And then Mercury's retrograde. So we've got like Leo vibes going into both of those planets. And then we also have the retrograde energy going into it as well. So I will tell you that the day before, or rather the night before Mercury officially stationed retrograde, I had this like really powerful epiphany that just bam hit me out of nowhere. Super Uranian epiphany that came to me. And yeah, I couldn't stop thinking about it all night. I was just wired, like thinking about this idea, but it was an incomplete idea. It was something that made me go, "Ooh, I like that, but how? How and when?" And those kinds of questions. And I don't have the answers for those yet. I just realized, oh, I need to just sit with this and eventually it will come to me. And if you sit with it, it will come. That is the energy of Uranus, okay? And I'm just sharing this as a real world example of how this energy can show up. So Uranus, sudden flashes of insight. It was being influenced by Mercury turning retrograde. So that went into it. And then again, like Mercury in retrograde can give us aha moments as well, because we're sort of having information from the past or things coming up that we are reflecting on and we're going back over. So, being, again, Uranus being the higher octave of Mercury, and then having Mercury retrograde, these two planets are very simpatico right now. So, that's an example of how that can work. And again, Uranus is super fast, right? So, the information that came to me was not it wasn't a complete thought. It wasn't a fully fleshed out idea. It was just a little flash of it. So, but it was enough to keep me up all night, which is, incidentally another Uranian characteristic when you're experiencing a transit of Uranus. So, just wanted to share that with y'all in case you were having something similar going on with you. But let's get back to this new moon. So, there's lots of things. Let's look at the chart first. Let's go to the chart. I know that as an astrologer, I'm supposed to be like, oh, the chart is the best part, but I kind of think it's like the most boring part, so I like to get it out of the way. So we're going to pull this up, and I'm going to do this as a browser window today. Okay. So we have the chart for Mercury retrograde. There. See, because with a browser window, you guys can see my cursor as I point at things. That's why I wanted to do that. So we have the new moon at 2 degrees of Leo, okay? And we have several prominent aspects that are coinciding and going into this new moon, which is one reason, one of many, why it's a special event. Apart from, Mercury retrograde in Leo, there's Mercury, woohoo. And then we have Uranus over here at 0 degrees of Gemini. So first and foremost, this new moon being in the early degrees of Leo is aspecting all of the outer planets. So we have a sextile to Uranus in Gemini, and then we have a trine to Saturn conjunct Neptune in the early degrees of Aries. And then we have the new moon exactly down to the degree opposite of Pluto in Aquarius. So that bing, bam, boom in itself is a big aspect pattern going on. It's like technically a cradle aspect pattern. It is mostly harmonious energy because we have, a trine and a sextile. These planets are sextile with each other. It's all very helpful, harmonious energy. But then you throw in that opposition with Pluto and make it exact, no less. And then we get our attention. So this is, well, let's just talk about the aspects, and then I'm going to make the chart go away, and then we can talk about it, because I would prefer to just do it that way. So let's talk about other things going on. Interesting things happening. So we have Venus in Gemini, so same sign as Uranus, also receiving this energy of Mercury, right? Venus is actually squaring Mars at the time of this new moon. Mars is conjunct with the South Node, and thus Venus is also squaring the North Node. So she is squaring the nodal axis at the same time that she is squaring Mars. She is being ruled by Mercury at the time of this new moon. Mercury is retrograde in Leo. Mars is also being ruled by Mercury at the time of this new moon. So we have Mercury's energy going into these two planets that are squaring each other, right? And it's that classic Mars and Venus energy, right? They're opposites, but ooh, if they don't have chemistry. And then the last thing I want to point out is that we also have the asteroid Mary Magdalena at 19 degrees of Cancer, and she is also aspecting the nodal axis. She is sextile to Mars and the South Node in Virgo, and she is trine to the North Node in Pisces. And yes, that is significant, and you'll notice she's the only special planetary body, she's technically an asteroid, that I've pulled up for this chart, apart from all of our normal traditional things going on. So, all right, did you get it? Did you lock it in? Take a screenshot of it? Memorize it? Let's come back. Okay. So, what are some of the other important things going on? Uh, so the sun moves into the sign of Leo on the 22nd, which is 2 days before this new moon, which is in the window of the new moon. Typically I count around 3 days before and after the new moon, where we are picking up that energy. But of course, if you are more sensitive to energy, you may be feeling it longer, a longer orb of influence around that point. But the 22nd is also significant because it is Magdalene Feast Day, as in Mary Magdalene, as in our asteroid Mary Magdalena. So, yes, we've got super strong divine feminine vibes that are going on with this new moon and just this time of year in general. And it's also Lionsgate portal opening, right? So then we have the new moon on the 24th, 2 days after the sun goes into Leo, and we have the Magdalene feast day, new moon. And then after that, the next day, July 25th, is the Mayan day out of time. Ooh. That is also significant, and it's also going into this new moon. It's part of the window. So all of these events are sort of like converging together in this bubble of beautiful energy. Um, and it's very significant. And I will say, there is a little bit of tension when we look at the aspects, particularly going on between Mars, Venus, the nodal axis, and then that that big whammy opposition to Pluto. But in general, we have a lot of really helpful energy, and having a tiny little sprinkling of tension within the energy is good because it motivates us to do something with the energy. If everything was just fluid and easy and flowing, we would kind of just be sitting on our keisters, not really doing anything about it and just kind of enjoying it and soaking it up, but not necessarily putting it to use. So it gives us a little bit of oomph to kind of do something with the energy, which is good. It's a positive thing. We want to have a little balance going on there, which is incidentally the theme of an opposition aspect, finding balance between the opposites, which is what's happening between the new moon and Pluto. But getting back into those other things that are happening. So I have just a bunch of nonsense written down. It's not really nonsense, it's just my, schizophrenic brain like spouting off ideas at random and me writing them down in a nonlinear fashion that only I can discern. So let's think about this. Where do I want to start? Let's talk about manifestation, because that in and of itself is a really big deal around this new moon, which I already kind of mentioned when I was talking about Mercury retrograde, right? Mercury retrograde is a good time for manifestation because we are slowing down and going back over things, and we're able to kind of like plant seeds that will take root when Mercury goes direct again, or they'll start to sprout. It's not a perfect metaphor, but you get the idea, is that we are perfecting things while Mercury is retrograde. When it's in the sign of Leo, Leo has an abundant energy. You couple in the Lion's Gate, that has an abundant kind of energy. It is, associated with the Strength card in the tarot. And that card is card number 8, which is symbolic of abundance. It's also symbolic of power and karma and time loops and balance. Yes, all those beautiful themes. And then Leo also rules the spine and the heart, which I find really interesting to have Mercury retrograde there because, you know, the spine and the heart are significant for 2 reasons. Well, they're significant for a lot of reasons, but in my argument, there's 2 reasons that they are significant. So each of these are a type of bridge. Okay. So we have the energy of the heart, which is connected to the inner child, which is connected to the spiritual heart, because Leo is a fire sign, and all of the fire signs are correlated to the element of spirit. Okay. And so we have the spiritual heart, and this is, of course, only assuming the higher aspects of Leo are being expressed. We can always go into those lower aspects. But we have the spiritual heart, we have unconditional love, right? Because we're talking about the inner child, because we're talking about pure joy and that pure elemental, fiery spiritual energy that comes from the heart. And then Leo also rules the spine, which kind of has to do with having a strong backbone and having strength. This is why the strength card in the tarot is symbolized or correlated with the astrological sign of Leo. So we have the energy of the heart that's backed up by the strength of the spine. But each of these components of our anatomy is also associated with bridges, right? And each of them is like a rainbow bridge because the spine is also associated with the chakras and with Kundalini energy. And the heart is like the bridge into the spiritual dimension when we look at it from that lens. And so we could say that Leo also offers us this opportunity to kind of bridge into the spiritual dimension and to marry together the opposites of spirit and matter from that perspective, especially when we're looking at the chakras, rakas, um, because we have the lower chakras, right, which are connected to the earth, and then we have the upper chakras, which are connected to spirit, and then we have the heart, which is balanced in the center, which is the bridge. And I will also point out that the spine that Leo rules is very specific to the thoracic spine, which is the area right behind your heart. So we are talking about a bridge, right? Interesting. Keep that in your noggin. So then we're also looking at the Mayan day out of time. Now go Google that if you want to if you want to get a lot of really detailed information about it. I'll just say that, the Mayan calendar follows a 13 moon cycle, and each of those cycles is 28 days. And when you add all of that up, you get 364 days. And so in order to layer that over our Gregorian calendar, which is 365 days, it means that we have to kind of remove a day in order for that to align. And that is what the day out of time is. So that's in like a very literal sense, but in a more symbolic, spiritual sense. The day out of time is a beautiful opportunity to step out of the limitations or the perceived limitations of time. And it's an opportunity to align spiritually and to experience synchronicity and greater flow and to kind of reset your slate. Because then, of course, the day after the Mayan day out of time, on the 26th of July, we have the start of the new Mayan calendar. So it's also like New Year's Eve for the Mayan calendar as well, right? So it carries in that energy too. And again, we have a new moon happening right at the crux of this crossover between the old and the new. Isn't that interesting? And new moons are new beginnings, right? And it's a time to plant seeds and to set intentions and to manifest. So you back that up with this energy of stepping outside of time, right? And what do we do when we manifest? We are converging on the 0 point, right? We are creating something and we are collapsing timelines to make that thing manifest in our physical reality. So it seems kind of potent to have the day out of time happening right after this new moon, okay? So that's interesting. And then remember what I was talking about the heart. So then we also have Magdalene Feast Day happening, which brings Mary Magdalena's energy extra potent at this time. So, and again, if you aren't super familiar, go do some research. Do yourself a favor. Bless yourself with some research because she's beautiful to research. But her energy is the divine feminine manifestation of the Christ energy, right? So she is literally like the feminine counterpart to this Christ energy. So we have some very strong feminine energy. So on top of this Christed energy, which is unconditionally loving, right? The heart, going into that spiritual heart again, we also have this energy of receiving and of allowing and surrendering and flowing and all of those beautiful feminine energies that go along with the divine feminine, and that wisdom that you don't have to go looking for. You go into your heart to find the wisdom. So that is going into this new moon portal, whatever you want to call it, this week as well. Beautiful. So, and then when we go back to talking about Mercury retrograde, which is in the sign of Leo, so it's carrying these vibes already, and then that is influencing Uranus, Venus, and Mars, and the South Node, right? That is like super manifestation power, because we are essentially, just even Mercury in Leo, period, is talking about linking together the heart and the mind, right? Because Mercury rules our mind and Leo rules our heart, and it's in that sign. So we are connecting, we are bridging together the mind and the heart. What do we need to do to manifest? We have to do exactly that. We have to bridge together the mind and the heart, because the mind is electricity and the heart is magnetism. And when you bring these two energies together, it's electromagnetic. Boogie woogie. So it adds that extra power, that extra oomph to our manifestations. And again, right now, Mercury retrograde, the tide is coming in instead of going out. So we have this beautiful opportunity to magnetize to us and get really clear about what we want to magnetize to us, and to get really, really keenly into resonance with the heart energy in particular, and to take that to another level of heart energy. We're not just talking about the joy of the inner child, we're talking about the purity of unconditional love through the Christ consciousness, right? So this event is equally abundant and dealing with beautiful manifestation, frou-frou stuff on the physical level, as it is potently spiritual and heightening consciousness and bringing us into that like powerful heart energy. And then again, Lionsgate and aligning with Sirius and having the downloads from, Uranus, and all of these things kind of flowing in together. So sorry, I'm laughing at myself because I'm looking at my notes. I'm vamping so that I can read my notes. Yeah, so there is just so much supportive energy. First of all, just for manifestation. So yeah, like manifest, you guys, on an intentional level, but know that there's an opportunity to really get into your heart and your truth. Okay, we have an opportunity to start something new, because we're on the precipice of a new cycle, literally with like a new moon, but also the Mayan day out of time, about to start the new Mayan calendar. So there's very strong potential energy here, okay? And it literally is a new beginning, but it's not just a new beginning, it's a new spiritual beginning. It's something that we have this opportunity to really shift into a higher frequency and start from that level of things. You know what I mean? But we are sort of integrating the past as well. And I think that's one of the big lessons kind of coming forward right now, especially with that new moon being opposite of Pluto in Aquarius, because Pluto's bringing up the shadow, right? And we do have Venus, and she's not directly aspecting Pluto, but she's in like a trine with Pluto when you look at just the whole sign version of that. And Venus is squaring Mars, right? Mars conjunct the South Node. Okay, so there's kind of this energy coming through of personal desire and personal will versus relationships. And what do I want, like, to keep harmony? Like, there's always those two parts of us. I'm sorry, I'm very eloquent right now. Thanks, Mercury. Hopefully, you all understand what I'm trying to say. But there's always that little battle within us, isn't there, of self versus other. There's always that personal desire to charge forward and to go after what we want. But then there's that need to balance and maintain harmony and maintain our relationships. And um, because we need both of those things, right? We want both of those things. And it can be really difficult to reconcile them when they are not in total agreement. And that's part of what's going on with this square. And it's highlighting those things for us. And Venus is also highlighting our mind and our communication because she's in this sign of Gemini, right? And so it's sort of like what is our truth? What is really our truth? This is one of the key themes coming out here during this new moon. What is your truth, and how does that align or juxtapose what you communicate and what you express to others? Do you fully embody your authenticity and your truth and the energy of your heart? Or do you self censor? Do you sacrifice? Do you compromise that truth for the sake of your relationships, for the sake of perceived harmony, because you don't want to make waves, because it makes you uncomfortable to assert yourself? And then what do you end up sacrificing in that process? What becomes sacrificed? And are those past patterns that maybe you need to take a look at because they might still be hanging around, you know? Even if we recognize something on a logical level, it's another thing to put it into practice, right? And to be consistent with that practice to actually change that behavior. So these are things that might be coming up right now. And again, this is just a little bit of that shadow, a little bit of that, just a little bit of that sticky energy, you know? It's just a little, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So we need some squeaky wheels sometimes in order to make those changes. But again, there's this beautiful energy coming through, especially through Mary Magdalena, and we get that coming through this Magdalene feast day energy where her energy is highlighted. There's always very strong Mary Magdalene energy around this time of year. And again, we're talking about going into the spiritual heart. We're talking about divine feminine energy. So that's another thing, is you might be looking outside yourself for answers. You might be looking to other people for validation. You might be looking to the larger scope of humanity. How do I fit into all that? How can I find my happiness within the roles that are being shown to me? And I want to be accepted by my peers, and I want to find my tribe, and I don't want to be alone anymore, or whatever. I want my spiritual mission. Where can I find it? Whatever it is. Again, this energy of Mary Magdalena is showing us that the way is not to go out there, the way is to go in here and to align with the heart. And when you learn how to attune to yourself and to your own truth and to hear the callings of your own heart, that offers you the bridge into that spiritual path. But you have to walk the path of truth and authenticity to get there. And then when you walk that path, that's when you find your tribe, and that's when you find your spiritual purpose, and all that other stuff falls into place. But it's not the other way around, right? You have to go in first to get there. And that's part of this energy. And you don't have to do anything to make that happen, which is part of the paradox of it all. So I think this is part of the lesson, is just really learning to really, really tune in to our own frequency, to our own inner child, to that pure essence that lies within the heart. That is our little bridge, our little gateway into ourselves, which is the gateway into the source that lives within us, right? So these are just some themes that might be coming up. But again, it's a beautiful new beginning. And the new beginning is spiritual, absolutely spiritual. And again, shifting higher consciousness. But it's also physical, it's also tangible, it's also abundance. Okay. Whatever that looks like to you. Abundance doesn't always mean money, but it can mean money. It's anything. It can be good health, and it can be a new home. It could be something tangible in this 3D world that you're trying to align with and manifest. But that's kind of the point, is that there's this new gateway opening at this time. It's a new beginning, right? It's a birth of a new chapter. And there's an opportunity to step through that doorway at this higher level of consciousness. And then, of course, when you're resonating at that higher level of consciousness, everything else aligns with that frequency, right? That's the way that those universal laws work, is it's going to match your frequency. So you got to change your frequency. So, and then that's where we start that new year from. So very much there is this energy of blending opposites, or balancing, or taking two seemingly opposing forces and getting them to work for you, getting them to work in harmony together. And it is this energy of Mary Magdalena in Cancer that is helping us to do that. And again, that's going inward into the self and finding our own truth, but it's also unconditional love. It's Christ love, and it's having true compassion for all sides, for both sides, all sides of whatever, and then recognizing the unity of opposites within that. So, yeah, there's just this beautiful, beautiful energy. And from that place, we find our truth, and we find, when you get in touch with your truth, it is very, very peaceful, right? I mean, you can be wacky, and you can be dorky, and you can be active and hyper like I am, but within all of that wildness, there is also this deep peace. And there is that sense of flow between self and collective. And that's how you really get there, that flow between yourself and the collective. And that is one of the key themes between the polarities of Leo and Aquarius, right? Because Aquarius in its shadow wants us to think of the group at the expense of the individual. And Leo kind of does the opposite. It only thinks about the self and what's joyful to the self, without considering how that could benefit others. So to marry these two archetypes, we can consider what is the truth of my heart, what makes me special, what brings me joy, and then take that outside of ourselves and share it with others so that it benefits. So it's meeting some kind of social need that desperately requires that energy and that particular thing that only you have to offer, that can actually bring healing. It can bring balance to the collective in your own little unique individual way, whatever that is. So that is the challenge between the new moon and Pluto. And all these other energies are offering support in that effort. And again, going inward into the heart is the key. And again, it's also a wonderful time to manifest. So use some fire, get some Leo fire energy in on it. If you want to do that, set your intentions, make your wishes, do your visualizations, speak it out loud, affirm it. Mercury is retrograde. It's not going to be retrograde forever. Get into that magical synchronistic energy to help support that, and know that you have the support of the outer planets as well. And again, Neptune conjunct Saturn in those early degrees of Aries. I mean, this is a new beginning. This is all a new beginning. So this is further supporting that notion. And again, make sure that what you are living, what you are speaking, what you are embodying is in alignment with your truth. That is the other key core theme to this new moon. And again, it's an opportunity, if you're not, to shift into alignment, to get into alignment. And the more in alignment you are, the better, the faster you're going to manifest the things that you actually want to create. And that's when you thrive. So, did I get everything? I think I got everything. Feels a little scattered to me. But you know what's funny is I always feel like I'm a little scattered, and then I go back to edit the video and I listen and I'm like, "Oh no, yeah, that makes sense." So, I don't know. I guess if you're still watching this, you're still hanging with me. It's making some sense. So, happy new moon, y'all. I hope that you have a blessed, blissful, abundant, spiritual, enlightening, heartfelt, aligned new moon. And may you be blessed to get caught in a thunderstorm, if that brings you joy. Otherwise, I will catch you all in the next video. I love you all. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn astrology, I just released an Astrology Foundations course. I will post a link to that below. And through the Lionsgate portal through August 12th, you can get $25 off the cost of that course. If you want to understand all this mumbo jumbo that I'm speaking here, and you're new to astrology, it's a great way to get started on your learning journey. Thank you very much. I love you. I will see you later. Bye.